Fabulous timing by the sound of it. Congratulations, little girl, that sounds exciting. Hi, Linda from Northern Southland College, and I teach far too many students in my level 2 accounting class this year, and I've just taken over the role of Dean from the lovely Jean Little, so it's an interesting wee go-to too. So yeah, hi everybody.
And Malcolm, you managed to send you that link. You've obviously
thank you. I went to the article Building Communities, clicked on that link, and it opened from there, but not the link that Sarah sent in the email. But all good now. Thanks, Darren.
Okay, cool. We're just introducing you, or you come on the tail end of introducing ourselves. So if you want to say who you are.
Oh yeah, okay. Malcolm Belton. I have been working at Thames High School, still in a brief capacity, but mainly working from home, teaching 3 distance classes, and I've taught distance for quite some time. I work for Volcanics mainly, but helping out Net New Zealand with a senior economics class this year as well.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Cool.
So I think we have everyone now. So Kelly, everyone. I'm Darren Sudlow, NetNZ. I teach senior philosophy, and like a few others here, have been in the environment for a while. And this is as billed as a forum, so it is certainly not a sort of a session where I'm going to give you a whole load of information of what I think and a presentation and the rest of it. It's a discussion. It's a chance to share practice. In fact, there's people in here, if I stepped out, would be more than capable of leading discussion and contributing to the topic of community building. So I mean, that basically the idea is to explore this idea of how we develop community and online learning. And that's because developing community is recognised as integral to the success of students online. For one, it reduces the isolation that potentially exists in the environment, and 2, because it makes a heck of a lot of sense anyway, even if you weren't learning online. So for NetNZ, we put a strong emphasis on community building. So this is a chance to explore how we go about doing that, some of the challenges in an hour, not even that now, 50 minutes, so because we will stop at 4:30. So hopefully it's the beginning of further exploration through the year. This is just a one-off, or not a one-off, it's a chance to begin the whole thing. So we've got someone's just come in. Harold, how's it going?
Good. I tried the link in your email, Jan, and I had to actually go back to last week's and click on the poster to get in. So anyway, I'm here.
Do you want to quickly introduce yourself, Harold? You timed it quite well.
Harold Healy at Kōtuitui College, Art and Photography, subject advisor, and I'm teaching photography level 2 online volcanics, and I love it.
Awesome, thank you. So your community building is, there's a significant body of research and evidence that shows how important it is in online learning. So what we'll do is just go around and actually get some ideas initially in terms of how we go about doing this ourselves. Some of the things we try, some of the things we don't try or are unsure of. Basically, everyone within this space here will be at differing levels of experience and expertise. And so it's a chance to go around and actually, okay, from your perspective, what sort of things do you try and do with your students to try and get a sense of community, of togetherness, of connection between the students and yourselves? So this goes beyond just a student-to-teacher relationship, the idea of the class being a community in itself. So the idea was just to go around from sort of left to right and just share something initially. And then I'll come back to it when I, at the end there as well, and share what I do. I said I'm a teacher, so I've got stuff I can share and ideas as well. So Marina, just because you're the top left-hand corner, and if you feel like, I mean, if you haven't got many, if you feel like you're a novice in the area, just say so and perhaps highlight some of the things you find challenging or you want to know more about in terms of community building. So Marina, have you got any thoughts in terms of some of the things you try and do?
Yeah, I'll just share one because I'm doing things a little bit different this year because we went to semesters. So I'm actually starting with a unit that I usually do in term 2. And this unit, so I teach level 1 economics. So this unit is called Producer Decisions. And what we normally do is work together to gather the information for the case studies that we do. And so I've been using Padlet. So I've used some of the ideas of knowledge building. And it's been really interesting because I usually do it in term 2 and sometimes I don't get as much buy-in, but because this is what we've started with, I've actually had better buy-in from the students and they're willing to share with each other their ideas rather than keep them to themselves. So, so we've used a central space. Padlet is what I'm using, and I give them some questions and then they put up their ideas in there and then comment on each other's ones. And so, so at the moment, that's kind of working quite nicely in building our community together.
Is there anyone else here who uses Padlet? So some of you have never heard of it, come across it? Would that be correct? Okay, so as a tool for building community connections, collaboration, it is fantastic. So it's padlet.com. If someone's got the URL, they could paste it into the chat and you can go explore yourselves. There are limited number of boards in the free license. However, you can reuse those boards in different ways. And if you've been using it for a while, you can actually use some of your old boards. But basically, it's a virtual post-it board. So what you can do on a wall, in a classroom or wherever, where you put post-it notes up and ideas, etc. Imagine that as a virtual wall, so that you're able to put post-its, these notes, up on this virtual wall, and the students you can use it in multiple ways. And so it's a very quick and easy way for students to be able to share and connect and collaborate. And what Marina's describing there is one way of doing it. I've seen a lot of teachers use it for introductions, for other activities. If you just want to brainstorm something, if you've got a question that you want to ponder, then you can use a Padlet, and it's actually, they just go and post ideas and things. It's just a very good, easy way of just breaking down some of those boundaries you might find between students. Has anyone got any questions about Padlet or any other sharing that they want to build on that?
Can I just ask Marina, hi, I teach level 1 eco as well, so hello fellow economist, here for volcanics. Do you use the tablet during the lesson, or do the students post their notes and questions and respond to each other after the lesson? Could you hear that, Marina?
Yep, I have got you, Connor. Yep. I was trying to get your picture on my screen.
Okay.
The questions, so the standard I'm doing, so I post the initial 3 main questions for that standard, and then they post in it responses to those questions, and then they can in their comments post questions as well. Is that so?
Do you take time out in your hour Zoom lesson, or are the students doing that in their own time?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. So in our like today, we had a discussion together, and then as we were doing the discussion, I was saying to the students, "Oh, that's really good. Can you pop that in the Padlet?"
Okay.
And that encouraged them. And then I say to them, I'd like you to make sure this week you're going to make sure you put at least 4 posts or a certain number of posts in the Padlet, and then we'll have another look at it next week.
Okay. Can I also just add there, the 3 internals that Marina and I teach for level 1 allow students to collaborate in the data gathering phase and work in small teams, either within a school, but often where with distance learning you've got only 1 student in a school. I like to pair them up with students in another school and have them work together. And this sounds like an ideal, and they do, using conventional ways of doing that through Google Docs or something, but this sounds like an ideal, perhaps more informal way of getting them doing that in bigger groups or in pairs, for that purpose as well. Marina, would that work in your view?
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing, and I mean, I'm doing this for quite a few years with this, especially with the producer decision standard, and it's just, this is the first time I've actually done it in term 1, and I'm actually having a lot more buy-in than I have sometimes. By term 2, sometimes they've become very insular about the assessment and don't really want to share with each other. For some reason, but doing it in term 1 because they're newbies, they don't know much about NCA, it's actually been really nice. They actually are getting that collaboration of the data gathering at the beginning. Yeah.
Yes, I do all 3 internals first and leave the externals till later, and that does get them working together in the data gathering. They've got to write up the formal part individually, of course, but they can share and support each other in the data gathering, and that's particularly good with online learning. So thanks for that. Just because I'm in the middle at the top and I'm commanding the floor at the moment, something I've done this year, I've got these 3 classes I'm teaching and they're fairly large, and it's nice for them to all get to know each other at the beginning of the year. Going around like we've just done here and introducing yourself takes up quite a bit of time and doesn't say a lot. The kids are pretty shy to do that. So what I've tried to do this year is to get the students to write a brief autobiography about themselves, about half a page. I give a few headings, suggestions about their family, their interests, what they're studying, why they're studying the subject, what their goals are, just to hobbies or whatever, just anything of interest that they can write, get them to forward that to me, and I'll just collate. I'm collating that, and with the students' permission, I will then upload that and share that with all of them so that they can get to know each other a little bit better. So that's worked successfully. Most of those are in from all of my classes, so I'll just publish that for them, and that just helps break the ice and have them operating and know each other as a group rather than just looking at each other on screen. Is that okay, Darren?
I think that's great. We don't have to be like go around rigidly. Well, it's actually a good opportunity for someone else to sort of connect with what you're talking about there in terms of introductions. So is there anything that anyone could add into the mix in terms of things they've tried? Maybe you've tried and not succeeded, but things you do in the introductory phase of things to try and develop some connections and relationships. Malcolm's just obviously kicked off that. So anyone want to contribute to that?
I get them. I've got a folder called About Me, and they're meant to submit something. It goes up on my community page under the category About Me, and I want them to put a photo and any sports or pets or family members. But I've had mixed success how many do it, but I've had quite a few. So then it's handy because like sometimes they're not putting their camera on for my hangout session, so I'd quite like a photo of them so I can actually visually see what they look like, but I need to remind them to do that.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, and I haven't thought about that in terms of using a folder. Other ideas in terms of introductions, what you do early on?
One thing I've been doing is to get my students as homework to bring or virtually bring an object that is important to them, or a photograph, or a present they've been given, or depending how old they are, like a toy or something if they're primary school, and to talk about it, as in where they got it from, what it is, describing it, being in the ESOL class, trying to also see what sort of language level they are at, and often it's something to do with their hobbies or things like that.
So you're talking about it within the video conference there, Madeline?
Yes, that's a speaking activity. You could also, I guess, extend it to a written one and use Padlet for that. But yeah, I've done it as a spoken activity first.
I think that's quite good because you've naturally taken us into both the synchronous as well as the asynchronous. So we've been talking about Padlet and the use of asynchronous, but also within the video conference. Within the video conference, what sort of things can go on there? But Carolyn, you're going to say something there around introductions, etc.
So I've also used Padlet, and I see Darren's shared something on the chat for those who are not familiar about using Zoom, which is a really cool one there. I've done my one, and Philippa has attached hers as well as an icebreaker. So there's just 3 different, you know, ways there. But one of the things that I wanted to create was, you know, making sure, giving them the opportunity of getting used to the tools that Zoom provides, which is the breakout room.
Come on, Zoom, Come on.
And so what I did was I just put them into breakout rooms independently. I said, I don't know who's going into the breakout room. You're just going to be put into a breakout room, and these are the couple of questions I want you to ask. So they were small enough rooms to get them with a few questions, and I was able to join in with them. And suddenly they were in a situation where they needed to talk to each other and share something really simple about, you know, what was their favourite Netflix program. And then also this year I've set up a WhatsApp group, and which allows them to send photos, and which means that if there's something, you know, as a reminder, I can just thank them for the lesson or follow up, please check your emails. They are now sharing photos and questions. So if one person is asking a question, everyone, it's not just me that actually is answering it. And so it's a quick thing, you know, because the kids actually want the answer straight away. And so if they're on a WhatsApp group, they feel that it's just the group and someone else is replying often and not just me. Even though it's only 3 weeks, they're starting to actually really engage with that, because you kind of have to think about what's that space that they're in. And a lot of them are using things like WhatsApp. Yeah,
thanks for that, Carolyn. Sorry, it's interesting to consider, like the Zoom within NetNZ, quite a few of us have shifted to Zoom this year, and I just, the breakouts feature to me is such a fantastic opportunity to create connections between students, because it naturally, you know, it reduces the size, and so suddenly you can get 2 or 3 kids together rather than naturally having to go through you facilitating everything. You know, Linda, you mentioned size, and so when you've got big groups, which some of us have here, I've got over 20, a breakout provides that opportunity to get kids into smaller groups and to be able to interact. Of course, that's going to bring some challenges, but I'd love to know how some of you explore that over this year, that use of the breakout function, and the ways it can be used to actually build some connections and things. But anyone like to continue on or comment on anything?
So can I ask a question? Sorry, as a beginner, it would be okay, just a very brief, even if it's just a brief, but introduction of how to use breakout rooms, because I know I've seen it on as an option, but I still have not used it yet. So how does it work? You assign students, your participants in different rooms, and then they work together?
Do you want to see? Should we give you 30 seconds and I'll show you in a second? Like, well, what I'll do is I'll just simply use the function. So you can make it manual, automatic. You can assign participants yourself. You can even do it before the session, or you can just do it automatically. So at the moment, I'm setting up rooms of 3 to 4 participants. I just create the rooms down the bottom. You won't see it, Anna, but because I'm the host down the bottom, I've got a breakout rooms function. So it's as long as you've got that host signed in, etc., you're able to do that. So I've created these automatically. Everyone's been assigned. This is part of the fun I find of the automatic thing. Is like, I haven't done this to my kids yet, but it will be where I just suddenly throw them into random groups and say, you know, have 5-minute chat. But then if I open all rooms, you'll find that you're probably getting a bit of a, so there we go.
Can you hear me, Darren?
Yes, Ken. John, how's it going?
Good as go. I'm just playing around.
Yeah, well, everyone's dropped into breakout rooms currently, so
I don't really. I went in there. I didn't know what it meant, so I thought I'd come back and see you.
basically, it's imagine concurrent, like imagine your video conference breaking into multiple small video conferences at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
So
we don't do that in accounting.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's funny because depends. There's always opportunities to sort of break into little groups where kids could be doing something together.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing currently is I'm zipping between the as a teacher or the host. You can in and out. So I'm just dropping in and out. Well, yes, I'll do now. So if I go to
And where it's gone to now?
Are you coming from a mile away?
No, I'm trying the Zoom thing.
What thing?
Oh, the Zoom thing has gone off now.
Oh, that's what you want?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, cause all I want. Oh, that's great. Because all I want. I'm going to photocopy it. So okay. No, it's only for this year, isn't it? Because the dates were.
The dates
all he wants.
Yeah.
He just wants to know. Say, for the zone, but how much we're using for EOTC?
Oh, did I forget to put totals on the other ones?
Yeah, I mean, because see, I give him the other one. I give him that to you.
Yeah.
And then because he can, he uses that for
I'll put it so he can put totals on.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic. Oh, there's Darren. You there, Darren?
Yeah, I'm dropping in and out here, John. Just seeing what's going on in these different groups.
All right. No, this year I'm lucky. I've got this wee computer sort of boy. He's doing accounting from this school, so he sits behind me, in a very, very polite way. Look, said, Mr. Douglas, we could actually, if you did that, you could do this and that. You see, so it's actually quite good.
Sorry, I'm just going to drop into this other room, John. Someone's asked for my help. Hang on.
Good as gold. Hey, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, John. Yeah, so that's been interesting going into the different groups. Everyone's going to come back now.
That's good. I just thought I'd play around and see. I've never been on the Zoom thing, you see, so I thought I'd just play around and get onto it.
Yeah, well, it's a good opportunity to do that, isn't it?
It's good. Yeah, how are you going anyway?
I'm good. I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Have they finished that motorway yet?
Oh, no, it should be middle of the year, so it's getting there slowly. Getting there slowly.
Yeah. I'll be good.
Yeah. Have you got a camera, John? Are you able to get your camera going at all?
Camera. Now, how do I get that going?
If you look bottom left corner, look for a camera icon in your bottom left-hand corner.
Bottom left-hand corner. I've only got the mute and the stop video, you know?
Yeah, so look next to that, there's a wee arrow next to the stop video.
Yeah, yeah.
Click that, it should be that choose. It should, may have
Oh, it says the tick beside HP HD camera.
yeah, pick that.
No, that's not. And
Oh,
that,
great, because I was starting to feel guilty. I'm pleased I was not the only one.
Anyway.
so why am I not getting it?
I'm not sure, John. There'll be something going. I mean,
I select it. It says select.
Thanks for that.
You're not getting a video.
Yeah, thanks. That was great.
Trying to fix John's video here, so he's not.
Yes.
Well, one of the things on the newer laptops is they sometimes have a little lever over the top of the video camera at the top of the screen. That might be turned on. You know what I mean? A little plastic lever.
Interesting.
Yeah, all the new elite.
Wow, well done, Michael.
Hey.
Oh, look at that, eh?
Reference.
I'm thinking it's all real technological. It's just pushing a wee bit of plastic across. Thanks, Michael.
Oh, you're welcome.
We'll learn something today.
Since we got you, John, do you want to quickly introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, look, I'm John Douglas. I've been teaching accounting for a long, long time now in Otago Net. And so probably, I don't want to say how long ago, but quite a number of years. And so I teach accounting. I've taught accounting level 2 for a long time, and now teaching level 1 accounting. And I think accounting works really well on the video conferencing. I was talking today to somebody about filling in forms, and I'm pretty old-fashioned. I just tend to use my camera. I use a lot of emailing and almost all my exercises and answers and things. And once I get the year 11 students into that sort of way of working, it seems to go pretty well. But it's a relatively straightforward course to teach. I don't know if any of you have done accounting, anyone, but it's relatively. Did you do it, Carolyn, at one stage? Were you doing counting? Yeah.
Carolyn does.
Yeah.
So you can see the breakouts. It's all sorts of possibilities there, and it's quite useful for me for the first time to be the host and have people asking for help because I didn't actually know it existed last year with my students. But I did. I've got a philosophy course, so I've almost got leverage with the kids to say, well, you're going to split into groups and discuss this, which I threw them into the mix last year at various times, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. So it's a matter of thinking about how you support the kids in those small group situations where they perhaps don't know each other really well or very well, and it can be quite daunting as well for some kids. That's sort of quite intimate. But it's totally doable, and that's we were talking about introductions before, and I just wonder whether anyone wanted to pick up from where we left off of what we were talking about there in terms of perhaps what you may do with introductions and other stuff we can think about.
Sort of a little bit relevant, I guess, but some of our kids are quite quiet, but I think the chat bit on the side, having that open is really helpful because it gives them a back channel. So as the teacher, I can see and allow them to ask questions in the chat side over there, and then I can speak to the questions because sometimes they don't want to speak. So that's sort of, if you like, a soft landing into the community.
Yeah, the chat feature is quite useful, and if those of you who've been teaching in the environment for a while, they know there's some kids who get quite anxious about the whole environment. I've had one this year who didn't want to turn the camera on because she has an anxiety disorder. However, she was happy to do it once we talked through, and I sort of managed to get her in a situation where it's sort of quite silhouetted, and then she's sort of next time she's been fine. But yeah, there can be something. The chat's quite useful if, as you say, it's a soft landing sort of thing. Other ideas? Other thoughts?
Darren, one of the things that I use the chat for, because sometimes you can't be monitoring everything. You're trying to keep your eyes on everything. So I actually every week a different student is the moderator, or watches out for that, and it actually empowers them as well. So they'll just say, oh, hey, there's a question, and such has got a question. And also in an environment with the class, someone hasn't got their thing on mute. What I try to do is encourage them to use the tools, and one of the tools is renaming themselves, so that if we want them to get to know who they are, it's actually good to put their name, even if it's just their Christian name, and then the school where they're from, and it teaches them how to go and, you know, rename themselves. So then the students can go, oh yeah, you know, instead of saying Douglas, it's actually John.
Yeah.
Because, and so that's just a little thing that actually helps them feel empowered about using the tool itself. Yes, and mine's fading at the moment, so I had to do some relief this afternoon, and I've gone and left my charger in an art room. So I'm going to disappear in a minute. Sorry.
One of my students.
Really nice meeting you all. Looking forward to the next meeting, Darren.
Yeah, no, thanks, Carolyn. No, that's some good ideas there. I hadn't actually thought about that with the chat, having someone moderate as students rather than the teacher doing it. I think that's a really good idea, throwing some responsibility to them. I'll actually encourage that in our next meeting.
And lastly, just making sure that we actually share something about ourselves as well, so that it's not just getting them to actually share, that you know, we want them to know something about us. And I've always found that that's so much easier. They see if you model it, and then, you know, go from there.
Yeah, something I've always done, analogy I've always enjoyed, Carolyn, and I can't remember who it's from, as a professor in Australia, forgotten her name. I wrote a really interesting paper, and she talked about we were talking about the stage and the stage and the guide and the side, and she talked about the meddler in the middle, and I quite like that analogy in terms of a teacher actually who's in amongst what the students are doing and are participating as they would. I think that's actually a really good idea in online learning, so they learn a bit about you and things. But other thoughts in terms of you know, those introductory times, the phase, I suppose, of the course, things that you do?
Just thinking just thinking that a lot of kids really do need to learn to use the technology, and we need to take the time to give them a chance to, you know, get used to those, if you like, mediating artifacts, which they have to use to communicate. And they, you know, my kids, the first time I met them this year, some of them hadn't used Zoom or Google Classrooms before. So it's a learning curve for them a little bit, just to get the technology sorted out first. So if that's part of the, you know, that's going to stop them becoming part of the community if you haven't looked at that first.
You're right, Michael. In a way, it's a chance, it's a good excuse to engage in sort of introductory activities, because part of it, learning to use the technology in different ways. So designing things for them to do, where they have to use different things, I think is a great idea. And then also that, you know, they're doing stuff and getting to know each other.
One of the things I also think important as we're establishing these relationships with the kids are just to develop basic courtesies, particularly with regard to communication. So I put quite a lot of emphasis early on is to get the kids to acknowledge every email that I send them for two reasons. Or the main reason being that I want to know that they've got the message and that they've got it promptly, they're opening their emails. And so if they click, say, on Google Mail and just those little prompts down the bottom, yes, you know, where it predicts and you can just click on it, yes, thanks, got it, or whatever, just to get them to respond to me immediately. And that very quickly sorts out who isn't opening their email, who doesn't have the message, who I need to follow up with e-deans, and I do the same with them. As soon as they send me work, I'll if I don't mark it immediately, although I try to do that, that's a courtesy too, I'll acknowledge that I've received it. And if they're going to be absent, to let me know in advance. If they know they're going to be absent, a lot of school camps and things like that, athletics days, and the kids have been great, and I can mark that down on my absence sheet in advance, knowing they're not going to be there and a reason for it for the e-deans. So I think, Darren, those basic courtesies are very much an important part of this early community building.
Are you using also PC School for that? Because I need to use that as well, and make sure that everybody's either, if it's absent, it needs to be justified. So because the kids will get reports, of course. I don't know if everybody's using that, PC School. I need to use that. Okay, so every time that we do a Zoom session, I need to do the role. on PC School. So if it's not justified, so there is an icon that says, okay, that's not justified, so then it has to be chased, it has to be follow up.
But
Volcanics use PC Schools. Darren, does Net New Zealand use PC Schools?
no, we don't.
No. So those on Volcanics know what you're talking about, Anna. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's also new to me, but I'm just using it. But yeah, and Google Classroom also very good. Yeah, that's right. So
that point about etiquette is quite an interesting one, Malcolm, because there's sort of, as say, courtesies both in the video conference side of things, as how you engage things, but also in the asynchronous environment. And of course, there's the considerations in an online environment outside of the video conference where you can't see the whites of each other's eyes. So that whole sort of environment where discussion and things can be misunderstood, etc. So I spend a lot of time with my kids working through those sorts of things and engaging in opportunities for them to learn to use the environment constructively with guidance. And I think that's actually a good opportunity in itself. Because for me, both this environment and the other requires a lot of trust, a heck of a lot of trust with the kids with each other and with you. So it's how you go about building up that trust for me is a biggie early on. I mean, has anyone got any short thoughts or sharing, etc.? Philippa, you've not said a lot. I don't want to pick on you, but any thoughts in terms of trust?
Yeah, I was about to jump in there. So with my class, I try to develop knowledge building communities kind of dynamics. So students are working together as a group, kind of as a research team. And I was talking to Michael in our breakout room about how that requires a heck of a lot of trust building and connection building between students. So I try to do lots of things to get students talking. So some examples, the asynchronous stuff that we do on Padlet. So I create lots of creative and kind of lateral questions that'll get students discussing ideas and interacting on Padlet. The other week we played a game in the VC, 2 Truths and a Lie, and that was quite a nice one for getting them to actually get comfortable speaking on their mic and talking to each other in class. So just trying to create lots of opportunities and to interact and just share a little bit more about themselves each class.
Yeah, I do a lot of icebreaker stuff as well because I operate in a similar way in terms of this whole idea. Because I've got a philosophy course, discussion is a fundamental part of that. So they need to actually get used to each other and build some trust. So I try to get them basically 2 weeks of icebreaker type activities, just getting to know each other. And it's sort of like it's not a peripheral activity, it's the only thing you do. And you've got to do it. And I very rarely get students who don't engage in that. They may engage at different levels, but I find it quite a useful thing to sort of get the year going, even though we want to fly into the content and get underway. And some of us perhaps have quite a lot to get through, but I think it's a really useful thing to do. I mean, today we did a bit of a values exercise where we discussed what are the sort of principles that underlie the course, the things that we would agree that are necessary for it to work. And that was really, really useful, just using images and things like that, just getting them to think about that. But yeah, I suppose there's different levels of community, isn't there, that you can engage in it. And we were talking about probably over there where it's a knowledge building community.
And we also negotiate our class protocol. So I put the question out to the kids, okay, the students, sorry, we're going to work as a research team. What do you think that's going to look like? And what protocols do we need to work well as a team? And they came up with a whole lot of really, really good ideas that I would have suggested to them anyway, had they not come up with as in-depth as ideas as they had.
That sounds like a great idea, actually. I mean, is there anyone else here that sort of that uses some introductory activity, does stuff at the beginning of year that we haven't talked about that have worked quite well?
I guess I'm also asking them, like in my case at least, been teaching Spanish. Most of my students are international students. So of course, just showing genuine interest in the background, in the country where they're from, sharing experiences of, because I think it's important, because some of them, I mean, they're just young kids and it's an experience completely new to them and new, so different country, different culture, different language, and yet learning a third language too. So it's, yeah, it's quite interesting, and sharing experiences of like any topic that we do, just compare like what it's like in New Zealand, what it's like in your country. And so, yeah, feeling so that we can share and be more, I think it grows in, or it helps developing more tolerance, understanding, or, yeah.
So you could, this how you run this would depend upon the size of your group, but you could try the first 2 minutes, just having an open session of kind of like, you know, significant news that's been going on. I know in my other work with CORE, most meetings or big meetings start with kind of like, you know, has anybody got any kind of big good news or bad news or whatever, you know, stuff like that. And it just starts it off in a social way rather than, you know, straight in with the hard academic stuff. The other thing that I do sometimes, which is if you can't be at your lesson for whatever reason, get the kids to run it. You know, you can task a couple of students, provide the material beforehand, task a couple of students to run the lesson, and that really works well.
Yeah, I quite like that idea, Trevor, the beginning of the lesson. Like I've seen often informal activity, social stuff taking place, but the idea of talking about, you know, what's sort of happening in the world of things, actually some
yeah. The other one that happened quite by accident was I turn up. I make a deliberate effort to turn up to my lessons on time, but not before. But I tell my students to turn up before, and what I found is that they're chatting away. They're like, the chat thing is like screeds long. They've been there 10, 15 minutes beforehand, you know? And if you give them that opportunity, but as soon as I get there, it stops.
Yeah, no, I find the same thing, Trevor. And I like the thought about, yeah, well, often we sort of cancel a video conference or something, or we try to turn it, but actually you can actually turn it over to the kids. I have done that a few occasions, and I've recorded it and watched it back, and that's been interesting. And you can, I remember when I first came into the variety, that was Cam, I think, who recommended this, but talked about just being late. And that sounds like very unprofessional, but perhaps if you warn the evenings, it's going to happen, and say, look, I'm not going to be there until the 10 minutes in, just because I want to see if the kids can spend some time talking with each other. It's actually not a bad thing, because when you're not there, suddenly, you know, they might start talking with each other about stuff. But it's a good point. So
Darren, just one quick further thing at the beginning of the year. Just looking around at us all in the room here, some of you are highlighting an issue that I try to get right early on, and that's the environment in which the kids are sitting. Some of the shy ones in some of the schools, I think Wellington East Girls College, I think I've got 7 students in that class from that school, and they were all trying to be on the one Zoom camera. They were sitting almost behind each other into the distance in a dark room, and I was trying to get them to introduce themselves. Well, obviously they had a microphone issue, that we couldn't see them, we couldn't identify them. So I talked to the ED, and we soon got that sorted. No more than 2 to a computer, or 1 each preferably. Try and get a light in front of you at 45 degrees shining forward onto your face, because the camera is trying to struggle with all of this. And just interestingly, Philippa, you've got a big whiteboard behind you, which is causing the camera to focus on that, which has made your face in shadow. So just by repositioning your computer around a fraction away from the whiteboard, suddenly you're now highlighted, and we can see you clearly. And just so those little positional things, getting the kids up front, not shy, well highlighted, and you can see the beautiful complexion I've got coming from the forward. Whereas John, you're looking a little pale today, and so I want you to deal with that issue. That's the side light coming in the window.
Yeah,
I told someone off the other day because he was using the phone. I said, "Can you sit down? I'm looking at you. You're using your phone. You don't use the phone here."
Anyway, it was important, I think. Anyway, Darren, just to get that environment right.
You're taking me back, Malcolm, in terms of the, you know, some of the advice I got. You know, like what Linda's got behind her is supposed to be one of the ideals in terms of colour. Because it doesn't throw shadow and things like that. But it actually highlights an interesting point in the video conference and the importance of like social presence being there. And so where kids are silhouetted, like I always, when they're sitting, they've got a window behind them and all you see is a silhouette. Yeah. I always deal with that early on. I've had a couple this year. You know, students without a camera on, that's just like an absolute no-no for me, and I'll get that addressed straight away. So those sorts of things are like so important because it just it's quite noticeable, isn't it? The light. Sometimes suddenly a student has gone to a different room and you can see them so much more clearly. Maybe for them, they don't want to be, but it does help.
And I must say hello to Malcolm. I just realised Malcolm and I were advisors probably about, how long ago, Malcolm, together?
Way back in the, I hate to say it, you've aged better than me. Probably back in the 80s or somewhere there, John.
I don't know. It's nice to see you, Malcolm.
You too, John.
It's good to see you still teaching.
Well, no, I've retired, but I'm flat out with 3 classes from home.
Good on you. Well done, X. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too, John.
Now, just maybe
I could see Sue.
Sorry, Anna?
Yes, I think I could see Sue. Yes?
Sue? Hello, Sue.
Yes.
Actually, I've got a confession. I've marked a student absent for 2 weeks who's actually been in my class the whole time, was just off camera.
So we've got 5 minutes left, and as I suspected, it's only really the beginning. But I would far rather participate in something like this where I get to learn from a lot of you rather than something else, because there's a lot of experience. Just for the last 5 minutes, is there anyone has any questions, especially if you're a novice or even experienced? Any questions that you have, things you wonder about with respect to community building and connections and relationships? So there's anything that anyone would like to ask that others might have some ideas on, challenges you've had or things you find difficult?
Yeah, I've got actually a question. I've got a small class and most of them come from the same school. And 2 or 3 other are peripheral, and there's an age gap as well. So how do you do with that? Have you any tips? Or it's very new. I just had them Monday, so it's very new for me too. But I realized that there's this cluster of students, and the others going to be floating around, and those 5, 6 are year 9. So 13 years old, and the 3 others are 14 and 15. So, oops.
You've got quite a big group in one school, have you?
It's a small class, so yes, a big 5 from one school, yeah, which is the whole class.
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic. Does anyone like to have some ideas
tips,
on that?
any idea?
Maybe in the breakup rooms, it could assign the different schools. So to make sure that they mix with the other schools. Just thinking to try the breakout rooms, but from the different schools, so to separate them a little bit. Unless they're using the same laptop.
Room, huh? It's very good to learn about this breakup room. I quite
it's great.
I think you'd have to insist they come in on their own laptops, because sometimes they'll come in like 2 or 3 around the same laptop.
As well. And in the middle of the lesson, one laptop couldn't work, or so they all congregate.
No.
Like
no, of course. Then you cannot do the breakup rooms.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but that was a technical problem that happened during the lesson. They didn't come with one laptop.
Yeah, that's
Mirelle, I think that in this case, I'd actually get in touch with the EDean of that particular school, because you have got one school. And get the EDean to actually come in and actually help sort them out, so they can all be seen, and make sure that there's any technical difficulties, because once they have one technical difficulty, chances are it's going to go through the others.
Okay.
Yeah, Sometimes they have a physical space issue, so they may all be in the library at the same time, and they're all on laptops, but they get quite a lot of feedback from one computer to the next, so there's a lot of sound coming in. So I think headphones is a good idea. Headphones and a speaker. So that helps quite a bit, because they can't all, if you've got 7 kids, so you're not going to have seven quiet spaces for them to be working in, I don't think.
Yeah, it's one of the challenges, isn't it? I remember, so back in the Polycom days, you know, going back, I mean, that's what I've enjoyed about sort of the desktop environment, is the ability to sort of break into individuals and things. But back in that day, I remember having groups and things, and the dynamic that emerges when you've got a sort of cluster of kids at one school, and almost that's the default to work or refer to a group rather than individuals. However, as Michael has mentioned, sometimes space can be a real issue. So I think you can still set up a group as long as it's set up well with a good camera, with a good mic, so you actually still get that sense of individual. And then it's just a matter of managing kids as individuals, I suppose, rather than as a group. But it does bring some wee challenges, Morel, even outside the conference. If
I could just add into that I was at Waiheke College for a little while, and they had HarbourNet there, and they had a purpose-built room for it, and the camera would track whoever was speaking and all that stuff, and a massive big screen, like about a 55-inch TV right in front of them, and they could sit around, and the teacher was just like they were in the room. But that's an expensive option.
Yeah, I remember.
I was there in 1992. There was not even internet. I was living there.
The other thing too is that if the school does have a TV, then they can actually use the TV as a screen, and they can actually still have their devices on.
Oh, wow. Right.
Yeah. I remember a teacher way back, again with the Polycom cameras, he used to use the camera settings. So he'd have settings recorded. So I'd push one on the remote, and it would go to one student in the group, and then push the next student in the group. It's a very managed environment, but it's quite interesting. But if you can get the right setup around, definitely it can be managed. It's just a matter of treating them as individuals, I suppose. But any other thoughts on that? It's 4:30.
Well, just I know your time's up, but just to say, I found today really valuable, Darren. A lot of practical things I'm certainly going to try, including particularly Padlet and those breakout rooms. I think that's really good practical advice, and that's what we're here for. Darren, are you planning to do this, say, once a month, or what's this? This is very cheap PD, otherwise we'd be having to drive half across the country to get together to do what we've done here very efficiently in an hour.
Well, Philippa or Marina, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so
I'll go with yes.
So virtual cafes that'll be running a couple of times in the term, and that's through NEX, which is a network of expertise for online teachers, which we're looking for more people outside of our own cluster to join. Darren, do you want to add anything on that?
I mean, it's in short, Malcolm, yes, there are plans to make sure there are ongoing opportunities to workshop with teachers like this, because I think it has a lot of value, and outside of the video conference as well. So yeah, there is a network we're trying to get off the ground to support teachers in this environment, and other things as well. But just even if it's just having opportunities to do this sort of thing, there will definitely be more. It just depends whether you want more on community building or whether we do something else. There's a whole range of things that could be discussed in there, but yes, there will be more. And perhaps we can create something where you can make
What time does the bus comes back on Friday?
Requests on what sort of things you would like.
From the one underneath.
Okay, Malcolm?
Yeah, no, just so will that be emailed to us, those that for instance, that virtual cafe there, Philippa, you'll email out details and include those of us in Volcanics, not just Net New Zealand?
Yeah, there'll be an email invitation that goes out, and yeah, we'll try to distribute it so that it gets to a wider network of teachers.
That's
fantastic.
Richard Wallace, isn't it? Volcanics.
All right, he's in Masterton.
That's
Yeah.
right. Wairarapa College.
He's in Welcome.
Oh, welcome. Sorry, Richard Wallace.
Welcome.
Well, Richard Wallace has come on board into the next as someone who can try and facilitate more involvement with the likes of Volcanics and Welcome, etc. So he'll be definitely a good point of contact. It's just a matter of slowly getting all that information and communication out there. But definitely, Malcolm will be trying the best to make sure that everyone knows of the opportunities.
Can I ask something? I'm sorry I'm late, Darren. I had another meeting here at school. I had a couple of HarbourNet teachers who did really want to join this afternoon, but had other commitments like paid union meetings and things like that. Was this session recorded?
Yes.
Okay, if you could send me the link, that'd be really good, and I can forward it to them because they put their apologies in. And we had a meeting this morning. Morel and Anna were with me this morning. And I think Philip has gone now, but there was quite a discussion regarding language teaching and how to deal with the conversations and recording and stuff like that. So that would be a really good virtual cafe, getting language teachers together.
Yes, that would be great. Good idea.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right. Unless anyone's got anything else, thank you very much for coming along and sharing your ideas and thoughts and questions. I think that's very, very worthwhile, and I've quite enjoyed it. So we will definitely have more, but otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day and week, and I'll see you next time. And
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
How are you, Linda? Can you see me, Linda? Am I getting on to Linda? Hey, Malcolm.
Yes, John.
Whereabouts you living now?
So I'm just out of Thames on the Coromandel.
I thought you were. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was part-time last year and just taught one level 3 class at the school, but this year I'm teaching 2 level 3s.
Yeah.
One for Net New Zealand, one for Volcanics, plus a level 1. So Marina, you I see you're still there. You and I need to link up in a virtual cafe sometime and share some ideas. I've got all my lessons. I've taught level 1 for many years now, but I've got all my lessons online through Google Sites, so the students have got all their learning intentions, success criteria, activities all there to go. And I've done the same with my level 3 classes, but today's been really good at looking at ways to stop being